Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another. What the hell? What is going on here, guys? What is this still living the line? Who gave me this book? What is this? No, thanks for joining me for another one man review. This book just came out. It's a one big fragging compendium edition of all the earliest Lobo stuff. And I couldn't help myself. I knew that there was going to be a bunch of really gnarly Simon Bisley and Keith Giffen art in this, and I had to get it. Yep, right away. Open up, and we got some awesome Simon Bisley. So I was very happy to get this. This is a lot of stuff that was around, when I was a kid, but I wouldn't have bought it because my parents, like 90s, my parents wouldn't have been too excited about that. But it was always stuff that I was like wanted to see and stuff that I've seen here and there, but I've never actually just sat down and read these original Lobos with those creators who I love so much. And especially going from this, going into then like Trencher, like Keith Giffen developing that style even further on Trencher, which is one of my all-time favorite bananas comic styles. I love looking at those old Trenchers still because they're so fucking nuts. So I had to get this. I'm not going to go through all of it because there's a lot of other stuff in here by artists like Val Simics, another really classic Lobo artist, much more in the just standard like superhero stuff with like a flavor of the Bisley type of stuff. Not why I bought the book. So I'm just focusing on like the things that jumped out to me, the things that I enjoyed in this. It's a gigantic collection, as you can see, and it collects from August 93, which is this first appearance of Lobo here, I guess, in the Omega Men, and then up through July of 94 is what it looks like. Really? Oh, no, that can't be. Okay, that makes way more sense. Sorry, 1983. There's no way all these books came out in one year. 83 through 94, but pretty much 1990 through 1994 which is when, like, obviously prime Bisley, Image, all that kind of stuff would have been going on. So I had no idea that Lobo started in the Omega Men. This was obviously back when this was something that was being written by Keith Giffen. So not really particularly interested in that. Just worth noting that like that's what Lobo looked like at that time, and he's part of a duo with some other weird guy. It's pretty wild to me that someone ever was like, hey, let's take that guy in that stupid green and purple thing with like the really shitty haircut. Like, I just spice him up and make him into something new. What connected this to the other thing in Keith Giffen's mind? But Keith Giffen's mind seems kind of impenetrable anyways. So, yeah, whatever. Who am I to question? So anyways, on to like Lobo, actually, where like we all know, because as far as I know, does that count? That's not canon, is it? Can't be. So anyways, Lobo. Only 99 cents, I wish. With iconic as it gets, Simon Bisley cover. Bisley? I'm going to say Bisley. Iconic as it gets, Lobo. Yeah, perfect. And then you jump right into the awesome Simon Bisley art. It's fun to see his earlier stuff like this, where it's like in the next volume, it looks more to me like Bisley even than this. I see like more of his influences on his sleeve here, the Carlos Esquerza, like all of the 2000 AD artists. I've been going and looking at digital versions of all of that kind of stuff lately, like the old 2000 ADs, and it's pretty obvious that, yeah, like Mike McMahon, is that his name? Esquerza. I'm sure I've written some other ones. They're going to not come off my mind right away. Some fun things like this, too, that they're putting in, just playing with the comics form a little bit, not just doing a straightforward comic style thing. So there's that like sense of irreverence in there right from the gate, which is fun. Again, you get some of that. It's good reason to see some Simon Bisley in black and white. Here you see already Bisley's getting more towards what I expect of him. The kind of thing that goes on to then, like all the veins and muscles popping out of everything that I think of, like with Liam Sharp taking it even to like the next extreme. But so many of these images, like I've never read these books, but I know these images through and through. That's speaks to the potency of the books. This character, Miss Trib, fun little joke there. This is Lobo's old 4th grade teacher. I feel like I've seen that same character in a lot of other things with those glasses or something else, but I cannot place it. This one here reminded me of Droulet, and it was almost like if Droulet was inked by Bill Sienkiewicz. Maybe it's partially just the coloring, but these kind of things right here seem like that's where he's drawing from a little bit. So a lot of really interesting, like to me, Bisley was always, I guess because I was a kid at the time and I didn't know all those precedents, he was such a singular artist. I couldn't imagine a precedent for him. So it's really fun to come back to it now with a much expanded scope of like the history of comics and being able to track that a little bit more easily. Some more fun ideas that would be more common in a comic today. Like this makes me think of Man-Eaters, was that Image comic that did a lot of stuff like this. But for the 90s, early 90, 91, that seems pretty forward thinking. Some cool stuff here that looks like it might have been using photocopy. There's like a thickness about the stuff that was photocopy. It reminds me of like Daniel Giested. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's last name. Jock. So I'm also seeing some influences moving forward. Obviously, there's a lot of people are influenced by Bisley moving forward. Even the big feet thing seems very 90s to me, like Stussy with the big shoes. That lady's still tripping me out. I don't know where else I've seen those glasses. It's driving me nuts. So here we've got Lobo with his teacher on Revel 7. This is a party planet. This seems to have been the major inspiration. This particular sequence was probably the inspiration, I'm assuming, for Liefeld's Blood Wolf, which was an obvious Lobo takeoff, but him on that weird pleasure planet, I remember that. A lot of fun, like I said, with not just the medium, but like the format of comics. So putting in fake ads, things like that did carry over. That kind of fun that they were playing did carry over into some of the stuff that was going on in Trencher. Like that, like I remember Keith Giffen ran a contest in there for like unbag your comics and send me the bag. So this interactive kind of back and forth, fourth wall breaking without having the character break the fourth wall, that play with the audience is a lot of fun too. And combined with all of the crazy art, I could see why this was just, this comic meant so much to so many people. It blew so many people's minds. There's a reason this is a very popular character, and it's because of this first series. So much is going right in it. Then there's an inclusion of the kind of next appearance of Lobo, which is in The Demon. And this is where I say we get Val Simics coming in. And Val Simics has a much more standard kind of comic style at the time, but it is like a little rough and edgy. And so he works really well for Lobo. But just the type of stories that are being told here, and the just more superhero style art in general wasn't really my thing. I know he's a classic Lobo artist, but it's just, I bought this book for a reason. There's 2 artists in here that I'm for, and that's what I'm in here for. When we get to now the kind of next Bisley in edition of Lobo, I've seen a lot of growth in the style. There's a lot of like Steve Parkhouse. There's a lot of I'm gonna blank on the name. Ralph Steadman kind of creeping in there, but like the shapes feel very Steve Parkhouse to me. The inking is very where the Steadman comes in, and obviously some of the Sienkiewicz kind of influences. Oh yeah, and here I made a Steadman note too. Very Ralph Steadman. And then I see the Kevin O'Neill. That was the other 2000 AD guy that I was trying to think of. I see a lot of Kevin O'Neill, even more so. It's very obviously there in the earlier stuff, but even more so in this second run. I think it's characters like these. Some about the quality of the line a little bit has changed as well. That speaks a little bit more to Kevin O'Neill. It's just crazy images like this. Totally wild. knowing that Keith Giffen was like writing this, and then I'm assuming probably laying it out, because I know Giffen does a lot of, it's hard not to see him in poses like this. I don't know. Obviously, these guys were working together and influencing each other back and forth and sharing ideas quite a bit. But this feels like the legs and kind of pose that you would get out of Trencher. Something about the way that the bullets are coming out feels like Trencher. So it's fun to see, even though it's like on the surface, as Bisley all the way through. As someone who's coming to this as a Giffen fan before a Bisley fan, it's fun to see the combination of the two. Super Jay Lee type of image right here. I almost feel like I could go pull up what was it, that Wildcats one that he did with Chapel in it, and feel like there's a swipe of this drawing in there. Or maybe this is just one of those Lobo drawings that's become so ubiquitous and famous I'm familiar with it. But that image is, I feel like I've seen it swiped by Jay Lee somewhere. But yeah, this kind of stuff is very obviously driving Jay Lee in his early career. And honestly, I kind of miss that really scratchy Bisley, Sienkiewicz, Jay Lee. I think issue 1 of volume 2 of Hellshock's the best work he's ever done because of that style. So that was a Christmas special, and then we get Lobo's back, which of course is a awesome pun that they're playing on the cover. We get the awesome Bisley art right out the gate. His painting style, to me, I don't know. I can't tell which I like better. It's weird because it is very distinct from his drawing style, but also obviously like so synced up. They totally make sense together. But it's interesting to see someone so competent in two different modes that there's a consistency, but also a vast difference between. So some more fun with just formatting. Like here's a couple covers that they would have put 3 in a row and had like little games on the inside. I think that's really fun. I don't know if there were like 3 different versions that came out, or if when you bought the book it would have had all 3 in there. I don't know how that went. It's probably like an alternate cover gag that they were playing to make fun of that. Here's another one of those. That's a super Giffen like walk trencher boot pose. Frag. I'm pretty sure there was a Fragaboom in here, which was kind of surprising. Oh yeah, here it is. This was really surprising to me. I've always associated the Fragaboom with Dan Fraga and his Black Flag comic, which must have come out after this. I'm not sure when. Yeah, that must have come out after this. So he must have stole that from them. And I could see like the influence of these artists on Dan Fraga's work for sure, like the guns and the bullets and all of that. So as a kid who actually had the last name Fraga, who loved this work, that had to have been so cool. Also, I can say that I got really lucky when I was like 12 or 13, something like that. My grandma lived really near where the old Image and Extreme offices were in Anaheim, and somehow managed one summer when we went to visit to get us a tour of it. And Dan Fraga was one of the people who was there and looked at my art and was like super encouraging and super nice. Just awesome, nice guy. Always enjoyed his books. And yeah, I know he's doing like movie stuff and whatnot right now, right? Is he doing comics anymore? I would like some Dan Fraga back in my life. Yeah, you could totally see some of his rendering too he was getting from this. But super cool characters, muscles, veins. Yeah, a lot of great nostalgia. I remember this too. This is the super iconic cover. I remember seeing that in Wizard or something probably, and because it is so gnarly and nasty looking, and then because of the ass cheeks and everything, at that time I would have been 11, so definitely didn't want my mom knowing I had any interest in things that looked like that. And you see Bisley's style, the surface rendering, especially the quality of it, continue to change and play. It gets like even gnarlier and chunkier kind of feeling. This is another one of those one of those images. Must have been in Wizard, but I'll never forget an image like that. That arm is amazing, and all the big, just chunky lines are there. Great. And then I love too that they have this as Fiedel's Giz as in gizzard, but you could really easily read as jizz as well. I'm sure that they were aware of that and were playing with that. But that is, yeah, come on, that's classic. super cool to see a Sam Keith cover in here. That's someone else that we've been operating at the time that obviously kind of shared some influences, shared some interests, especially in like the texture and the ink and all that kind of stuff. So fun to see them linking up. Man, I would love to see a collaborative book between Giffen and Keith. That's too bad. That will never happen. Maybe Bisley could step in. Getting slapped by death. And that, it's always, I think we always need the Lobo character. We always need the Harley Quinn or the Deadpool. Like, you need someone to come and, like, take the piss out of what everyone else is taking seriously, just for a culture to, like, process itself. So, yeah, we always need stuff like this. There's some art in here done by Dennis Cowan as well. Dennis Cowan's really, like, obviously coming out of the Simonson back to Sergio Topi kind of school of mark making, which I quite enjoy and fits really well with Lobo, not Logo. Someone who I think I need to like look up more of his stuff, Cowan, because there's a lot of really beautiful things in here. So someone like I kind of put in like the Klaus Janson, where I feel like he's inking sometimes, and it's kind of hard to piece him out from the people he's collaborated with. But maybe I'm wrong in that. I'm not quite sure, but I like his art a lot. Really fun little cut in here where they're putting the definition of misogyny in the book, and I just. I grew up in the 90s, man. Like, this is what the world was. So all of the more political correct things going on now are hard for me. I grew up in an era like this where we were just purposely leaning into all of that as a joke, to make fun of it. So I miss that. Like, I grew up on that, and I miss the freedom of that. But I get why also. And then we get to what I was like really, really looking forward to, which is Keith Giffen coming in and doing the work all on his own, doing the inking. And you can see right out the gate, like, the structure of Giffen, that the chunkiness, the poses and stuff that was obviously underneath a lot of the Bisley work. You can see it, like, especially those walking with the big clunky boots. I'm not going to flip back, but it still kind of looks like Bisley here. You can see the Kevin O'Neill influence really heavy in this as well. I think that kind of shows in here. So that's all like coming together. You've got, like, he's been working with Bisley. They've obviously been looking at a lot of the greatest British artists. I'm assuming Bisley was like exposing Giffen to a lot of that stuff. And in the same way that he kind of aped the Munoz stuff a little hard in some of his work, he's really like grabbing onto all of those, but it's coming together because there's a variety of influences now. It's coming together to make something that's already pretty peculiar. And in the little Lobo strips at the bottom, where he's not letting himself having all the hatchy ticky marks and texture, you start to see maybe actually the first development of what will become like the finalized trencher style. But you see that kicking in very quickly as it goes. Like, this is a very trencher type of image right here. I mean, shit, that might even be trencher because he's got the hair and the ponytail. Oh no, that's Lobo coming in. Yeah, but he's even doing the kind of the hair. The boots are kind of the same. So it's fun to see that style develop, because when I came across trencher as a kid, that was one of those things that, yeah, there was like absolutely nothing I'd ever seen that even got close to it. It seemed like it's from an alien world. It still kind of looks that way. I still think it's one of the wilder comic styles out there. Looking at this stuff too, I also see a lot of influence on early Eric Canetti, who's another artist whose art style seemed like out of nowhere when I first saw him. And this makes a lot of sense. And someone who I think has actually pushed himself a little more mainstream along the way, sadly, in my opinion. Yeah, there's some stuff like this. But this story then is all about Lobo's left a lot of kids. Obviously, I'm not talking about the stories that much because they're just dumb, blow 'em up stories. But yeah, that's fine. I'm not here for that. So he's got to seek out now like how to get away from all of his kids, and he's got to go beat a bunch of these people up. And in this page here, you see now we've got like way less of the ticky marks and much more of like the 2 or 3 lines piled up almost like parallel next to each other, which is how Giffen starts dealing with value instead of doing the ticky marks. And I think that's where he really, really pushes over into that thing that's going on in here and in Trencher. That's just such a bizarre, wild thing. This feels very Mad Magazine, some of this as well, like just the overall parody and like this type of stuff. This is hilarious too. There's like this used condom in the door banging on. So at this point, like, I don't know, Giffen has bought himself the right to do whatever he wants in this book, and they're letting him get away with it. Now we're full-blown Trencher. We got like all the wild color in there. You see all those crazy bullets, the weird swirlies. And this is awesome because this, I think, probably was, I don't know why they didn't put it here, but this was obviously like a gatefold or a four-page fold that spread out of the middle of the book. These are both badass. That's such a crazy, these shapes are so nuts. That's wild. Yeah, you could just flip through every page of the Giffen parts of this and be totally astonished. So the cool 4-page spread, the art gets so wild. I feel so bad for the colorist. I don't know, they made it work though. And now this is Lobo versus his daughter. I feel like I've seen his daughter is now part of DC. They've got a lady Lobo, but here he is fighting his kids. Then we have a guest appearance in this issue from Dan DeCarlo, which is hilarious. They're throwing Dan DeCarlo into a Lobo book. Someone who's more known for the Archie, and giving him this context is fun. Giffen must have had a ton of fun doing that. And then you're right back into the wild paint-by-number nonsense of Giffen. Fun to see some Mignola in here. Someone else that makes sense to me in terms of like the Kevin O'Neill, like that's kind of looking like the Kevin O'Neill influence chain coming in there. So someone who would have been, yeah, like right on board with what all these other artists contributing to this project would have been fans of. Here's another Mignola one with some very Kevin Nowlan looking inking, but I don't see Nowlan's signature on there. But yeah, it's definitely, that's why they work well together, is there's an influence chain there as well. Another Mignola cover I have to pick out. These are all seem to be like an ongoing Lobo series. This is the Val Simiak's artist. So, like I said, this was not as interesting to me. Also, the writer changes. These are the Alan Grant. When Keith Giffen's not involved, I think it's Giffen like that always makes the Lobo stuff really work for me. Some really fun like page variations here of some other like characters. I quite like this Wolverine guy there and the super patriot Captain America kind of thing. I'm curious how people feel. I've always hated comics that have covers by someone other than the artist on the inside. Like if I see this cover in a shop and I'm attracted to it because of the sick-ass Mike Mignola art, like no matter how good this art is, it's just not what I want. I've always kind of disliked that. And then the Kevin O'Neill influence becomes explicit when we go ahead and get another collaboration, again written by Keith Giffen with some dialogue from Alan Grant and Kevin O'Neill on art. And you can see Kevin O'Neill working on Lobo, the type of shapes he would bring to it, all of that. You really get a sense of where these artists were influenced by the work that Kevin O'Neill had been doing in 2000 AD and things like that, I'm sure. A really fun thing here early on, before Kevin O'Neill ever collaborated with Alan Moore, as far as I know, unless they did 2000 AD stuff together, we have a shout out to Alan Moore, Postmodern Pennants Locks. So at least a fan of, but probably friends for quite a long time before they ever worked on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is really fun. This guy's name is Mark. I wonder who that is. Which Mark is that? There's a lot of Marks. Oh, and O'Neill signed something here. Yeah, so then you get the Kevin O'Neill stuff, and you just get all of that, Where's Waldo type of details in the back. He's a cartoonist that's always going to be putting in his own sight gags and jokes, which is a perfect thing to collaborate with Lobo. This is really funny. That almost looks like a Dan Clowes cover to me. That looks like Clowes too. That whole thing. That's very strange. Around the page here are all these quotes. Lobo is now at a convention. That's what this story is. So Lobo's at a convention. You see him doing a panel, and now he's doing portfolio reviews. And this is probably 93, 94 now by this time. That was totally the era that I was going. 93, 94 were probably the 2 years that my uncle took me to San Diego Comic Book Expo, which was the dealers expo 2 days before the convention opened. So I was lucky there was no one there, but like Jim Lee would still be there setting up the desk, and my uncle was ballsy enough to like walk over and like, "You're Jim Lee, my kid loves your stuff. Can you look at it?" And then the couple years after that, where I went to the convention proper and had to deal with this stuff, it was like, what the fuck? This is insane. So it's really funny seeing the portfolio review. I've never been a fan of conventions. I only ever went to San Diego to try and get work. I don't have enough money back then to go buying things. I was never interested in signatures and cosplay and all of that. It's always about getting work. So this was the part of conventions that I engaged with most. And it's really, really funny to see Lobo going through that. And then all around the outside here are these quotes, which I am guessing are real quotes that Giffen and Grant and whoever else is contributing to this has heard while doing reviews. They've heard casually in lines or whatever. So I'm going to read these. They're really funny. "I left my best stuff at home. This is all my own work, of course. Kev!" That's where, maybe these are written by Kevin O'Neill rather than the writers. "Have you seen Denny O'Neill? This one's a swipe, can you tell? Kelly Jones said I was good." I like Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones would fit with this too. "And this is my Frazetta style. Keith, I'll do anything at all. Have you seen Karen Berger? My mom likes this one best." That's probably the one that made me believe this is 100% real. Some comic book dork would tell that to an editor. "Is Dan Raspler really bad? I'm better than you." I could also see someone saying that to Keith Giffen or Kevin O'Neill, because like when I was younger, I thought if it didn't look like Jim Lee, it sucked, and these kind of styles would have stressed me out. Some dumb kid probably did say that. "How much do you get paid?" That's a fair question for an aspiring artist. "I did this a few years ago." That's not something you should ever say. "Have you seen Mike Carlin?" So I'm guessing that those are all 100% real things. Yeah, that sounds like stuff that stupid people say at a comic convention. This is really funny here, where Lobo's pointing out the crap anatomy on this one when it's kind of the same distorted anatomy that this group of artists is playing with. That's really fun too. So a lot to enjoy in that one page. And then we come to the costume party, and I love there's just like the big fat like biker Lobo. So really, really fun. Again, Giffen's back. He's bringing like the right chain of influences again. It's not into the superhero stuff, and that to me is like a proper Lobo comic. It's got that real 2000 AD vibes behind it. An artist that I liked for a long time. I haven't seen any stuff from him recently. Someone who I felt like kind of went too far towards realism and maybe burned themselves out because of it. Really nice to see some early Gene Ha work. Really, really fun to see his style, which definitely, like, this is what I would expect from like top 10, but in this context it looks, you can see again that it's coming out of the superhero stuff and then became something else. But a lot of the mark making's not that different than you get on this like John Bogdanove piece over here, even though like the kind of structures underneath are different. Really fun to see that. Then just a big chunk of like just, Lobo, regular Lobo comics. An artist that I have not heard of before, but that fits really well into that like Sam Keith, all that everyone we're talking about here. And someone I really need to look and see if I can find more work by is this artist Martin Edmund. Really like the work here by Martin Emund. Even the painted work. This shit's crazy. Is that actually that's not a cover either. He actually went ahead and did a painting for the issue. Yeah, it looks like a spray painting. Probably before Keith Giffen, or sorry, there's so many names here. Sam Keith, too many fucking Keiths. Sam Keith was doing painted stuff inside his interiors. That's cool. Yeah, I really like this Martin Emund art. And then there's another collaboration with Kevin O'Neill. Always excited for new Kevin O'Neill art. Someone else that I wish I would have known about way earlier. And you can see, who is this? This is a different artist. This looks like Carlos Esquerza. Is this? I don't know. There's a lot of guest artists in here. Didn't write the artist's name on there. Here's another Martin Emund. And like we're like playful with the page compositions too. Really nice shape work, really nice like black and whites. Really, really like that artist. So this must be some little anthology thing. They're doing new artists every page. I read these all 2 or 3. Been a crazy last couple of weeks, so I'm on a backlog. And with stuff like this, especially, I don't remember the story. I might not even been reading the story. I might be just looking at the art at this point. But Dave Johnson, I was like Dave Johnson, Sergio Aragones. And I was saying earlier, some of the Kevin O'Neill stuff has, I could see Kevin O'Neill being influenced, with the shapes and stuff. I never thought about that before. Is Kevin O'Neill style based on Sergio Aragones? The big chests? The kind of all the background gags? Huh. And even some of the line quality. I had never thought about that. That is fascinating. Anyways, and then this one is by an artist named Dusty Abel, who also I don't know. Not seen other stuff by Dusty Abel. I don't know if that's the same artist, but that is a really powerful, awesome piece right there. Feels very Dave Johnson-esque as well. Maybe that's Dave Johnson coming back at the end. That's got to be a Dave Johnson. That's Dave Johnson drawing all right there. This must be Dusty. Yeah, that's a different. That must be who it is. That's got to be a Dave Johnson. Anyways, it's a badass drawing, whoever did it. Those are, just going through the images that stuck out to me. Like I said, it's Lobo. I don't think there's any real need to talk about the story. And it was exactly what I wanted. I wish that we could curate collections like this by artist because, if I could just get all the Bisley stuff all in one book and not have all this extra stuff on my shelf that, it's not bad. It's just not stuff I'm particularly interested in or ever going to go back to. That would be cool. I think things should be collected more by artists, but this is how we get them because this is how the majority of the reading public honestly wants to read them. Not everyone cares about artists like the artists do. So very excited by this. Very, very happy to finally own those early Lobo works and some of what I think is the peak of Keith Giffen's career in terms of like just fun and amazing style.